of your body because it is the only place you have to live. Very good evening, viewers. Welcome to an exclusive health talk, BMC Global Live Al Hilal Health World. Myself, Marina Francis. A woman undergoes various changes in her body, and many a times she may not be prepared for it. It may seem overwhelming, or definitely it is a challenging task to manage her physical, mental and emotional state along with her social interactions. So we have a very relevant topic for our discussion today, menopause. And yes, it is all about aging gracefully. We have a very apt doctor joining with us today. May I welcome Dr. Jasmine Shankaranarayanan, a specialist gynecologist with over 10 years experience in this field. She has completed MBBS, DGO and DNB from the reputed Calicut Medical College and has also served at Calicut Medical College for many years. Currently, she is working at Al Hilal Hospital, Muharraq branch. So let us hear more about the topic from the doctor.
Thank you, Marina. I am deeply humbled and honored that you have called me on your show the second time. Thank you so much.
We are also very happy, doctor, and once again, welcome to this show. Doctor, our topic for today is menopause. So, firstly, for a clarity for the viewers, can you elaborate on what is menopause?
Menopause, I would say, is the third stage of a woman's life when you see it biologically. So, the first stage is definitely menarche, that is the start of the menstruation. Okay. Then we have the reproductive life period, that is, these are the years in between when a woman is capable of childbearing. After that, as the third stage, we have the menopause, that is the stoppage of menstruation. It is very clear from the word itself is self-explanatory. Meno means menstruation and pause means stop. So this can only come as a retrospective diagnosis that because when a woman has to be free of her period, the period has to stop coming for at least a year officially for her to say that she has hit her menopause.
Okay. So, doctor, what is the age when menopause sets in?
The normal age group, the range between which the menopause can come in is between 45 to 55 years of age. Okay. So, in the olden times, if you see about our grandmothers, our grand aunties and all, they would have had their menopause a little earlier. So, they would usually hit their menopause by 45 years of age. That is because of the kind of foods they were taking at that time. There was no processed foods around that time. Yes. But now, just like how the menarche is setting in early as 10 and 11 years of age, girls are getting the menarche. The same way, the menopause is also becoming late. That is because of the prolonged action of estrogen on our body. So that is again related to our lifestyle, our food habits these days. So it can go, the menopause can be delayed as late as 52, 53 years of age. Okay. But sometimes for some women, the menopause can be a little earlier, maybe around between 40 to 45 years, they may get their menopause. So that is termed as an early menopause. And rarely, we also get situations where the periods stop even before 40 years of age. So that is because of the deterioration in the ovarian function, and that is called premature menopause.
So, doctor, my next question is, are there any factors determining the age of menopause?
Yes, there are a couple of factors. The more common one and more important one is the genetic factor. Okay. So, if you just go and do a little bit of research into your family, you will see that if you ask your mother, your aunties, you can approximately know the age of menopause in them, and you can you can also discuss with them when their mothers had attained menopause. So it will be almost tallying, almost the same age. So that shows that there is a genetic component to this, and according to our family history, the time when our mothers attain menopause, most probably around the same time we will also attain menopause. Okay. So that one component is there. Other than that, if you have undergone any kind of pelvic surgery, for example, an ovarian surgery or a surgery on the uterus, this can affect the function of the ovaries and it can stop functioning a little earlier. Okay. So, for example, if you have some cyst, an ovarian cyst, and you're getting it removed, So that can, to some extent, it will cut the blood supply to the ovary, and the ovary's function will deteriorate. And there can be other situations in polycystic ovaries. Women with polycystic ovaries sometimes go in for an early menopause. That is, if they have undergone an ovarian drilling to remove the immature follicles and to activate the ovary. Sometimes, if there is too much of drilling being done, the cortex of the ovary can get damaged, the blood supply can get lost. So that is another thing. And we also, suppose you have removed the ovaries and uterus earlier on, and so there will be a complete stoppage of menstruation immediately. So that is called surgical menopause. Then there is another situation if you are suffering from any cancers of the uterus or the ovaries or even of the rectum or something, and you undergo radiation in that area, in the pelvic area, that can again damage the blood supply to the ovaries and result in a premature menopause.
Okay. So, doctor, you spoke about the age when menopause would set in. So, are there any signals the body gives us when we are about to enter the stage?
So, Marina, it is not like this that usually, at least usually, it never happens like this that till the last month you were getting your period and suddenly everything is stopped, and it's not an abrupt thing.
Okay.
It takes time because the hormones which are responsible for our normal menstrual cycle pattern, that is estrogen and progesterone, they will slowly start declining. It is a slow phase. Okay, so that phase before menopause, which during which the hormones start fluctuating, declining, and there are a lot of changes within the body before we hit the menopause. That stage is called the perimenopause. So peri means the time period around the menopausal stage. So this period of perimenopause can be anywhere between 1 to 3 years before menopause. And this is the frustrating time because this is the time of the transition, and a woman faces a lot during this time. It is just like how a young girl has difficulty accepting her menarche and getting into the phase of the menstrual cycles. So the same way, it is very difficult to accept a menopause, and this perimenopausal period is a difficult period. But at the same time, our body is so intelligent that it can give us so many signals to tell us what is going to happen in future, right? So this is one of those signals I will be discussing about. So first thing is about the menstrual cycle pattern. If till the last month you were having normal menstrual cycles, and every month, every 28 or 35-day pattern, you were getting your periods and in a regular fashion, slowly there will be changes in that. So the usual changes we see is in the intensity of flow. Most of the women suffer from heavier flow of during the periods. There will be a heavier flow, the intensity will be more, and the cycles become shorter. Instead of getting every 30 or 25 days cycle, she will be getting her periods every 15 to 20 days, and she'll be thinking what's gone wrong, right? Other than that, there are other ladies who suffer, that is even more difficult because they start missing periods. They miss periods, and every 2 or 3 months only they get the periods. So when it happens the first time, she even becomes anxious. She starts doing the pregnancy card test. She'll be looking for pregnancy. She comes to the doctor saying that I missed my period. I don't want to be pregnant at this time. And it takes some time of cajoling and brainwashing them that no, nothing is wrong. We have to assure them a lot. You are not pregnant. It is just the hormonal changes you are going to start in for a menopause. So that is another thing. They start missing the cycles, and the periods become shorter and lesser intensity. So that is about the periods. Other than that, there will be many other changes happening in the body. When the menopause, you should understand one thing, menopause is because of the estrogen deficiency in the body. Menopause hits in when the estrogen is totally deficient in the body. So the estrogen is a very, very important hormone which is affecting all our body organs. It has a role to play in the functioning of most of our body organs. So that is why during the stage of perimenopause, the changes in the other body parts also start happening. For example, estrogen, the most distressing symptom that a woman faces is the irritability. Okay, when the estrogen level starts to decline, she starts becoming very irritable. There will be too much of mood swings, and most of the husbands, sometimes the husbands accompany these women to tell that this lady is always fighting with him, and that will be the main complaint sometimes. So but it's very difficult to understand that this is the reason for the irritability, right? So there will be irritability, mood swings, loss of appetite, and there will be too much of hot flushes. We will come to that later. I'll elaborate about hot flushes later. So hot flushes, night sweats. So it's overall very, very frustrating for the woman, and she doesn't know what to do about it. So that is one thing. Then other than that, there will be some urinary complaints usually. She will have an irresistible urge to pass urine all the time, and when she feels like passing urine, it's like she has to rush to the bathroom, otherwise she'll wet her pants. So that is also a very, very embarrassing situation. Other than that, in the middle of the night, she has to wake up 3 or 4 times to pass urine. Again, that is very discomforting. Then there will be vaginal dryness, skin dryness, and there will be weight gain. So these all are the signals that the body is giving that yes, within a couple of years you are going into your menopause.
Doctor, definitely that answer would have been very useful for the women to identify what stage they are in. We have only dealt with the major general basic aspects of menopause. We shall be back with further questions. Now we shall go for a very short break. Welcome back. You're watching BMC Global Live Al Hilal Health World. Our topic for today's discussion is menopause, all about aging gracefully. And talking to us is Dr. Jasmine Shankaranarayanan. So doctor, now let's move on to some problems that women may face while entering into the stage of menopause. So doctor, does menopause cause any bone and joint problems?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, we elaborated earlier about the harmless effects of menopause. Okay, the harmless symptoms. It's a very transient thing. It will just come, and after the menopause, slowly it will start settling down. Okay, but this one there are some dangerous aspects also because of the estrogen deficiency. So one is the detrimental effect on the bone health, and the other is on the heart health. Okay, because estrogen is very, very protective for the bones and very protective for the heart. So what the estrogen does is, when in the presence of estrogen, there will be a presence of bone forming cells in excess, and it will limit the number of bone destroying cells. Okay. So obviously when there is an estrogen deficiency, the bone forming cells will get depleted, and the bone destroying cells will be in excess, thereby destroying the bone density, making it thinner and fragile. So as a result of that, as a complication, so you should understand one thing, that this starts happening a lot before the menopause sets in. Okay, during the perimenopausal period, this is one of the changes that happens very, very gradually, and by menopause it is full blown osteoporosis. We call it osteoporosis, that is porous bones. The bones are fragile and not at all dense and easily liable to get fractured. So that is what happens if you or I slip on the floor. Mostly we won't fracture our bones. Okay, but in the menopausal age group, if they just slip and fall, they will be fracturing their hip. They can fracture their forearm easily. They can fracture their vertebral column. So because these all have become very fragile, the bones have become very, very thin. Okay, and again, as a topping, what happens is the healing also takes a long time. There's delayed healing, and during that, because of the immobilization, there can be added complications. So overall, it's a very dangerous thing, and we need to take the corrective steps to prevent such a situation. Other than this, the effect on the we were discussing about the joints, right? Yes, again, like the bones itself, the muscle and joints, they are also affected by this. The thing is, the estrogen, the presence of estrogen will make the tissues very soft, flexible, and the stretchability will be better for the ligaments and the joints. But what will happen is that the ligaments and tendons become rigid in the absence of estrogen, and when they become rigid, they'll pull up at the joints, and the joints will become immobile. Okay, and that so when you try to move your finger, and when you try to walk, at your knees, at your fingers, joints, and everywhere, at your wrists, you feel the pain and the soreness. And this is precipitated. This becomes more when you are dehydrated. Okay, so that is the reason why when you wake up in the morning, because of the overnight not drinking water, we are a little more dehydrated. By the time we are waking up in the morning, the soreness will be at its peak, and that is why as soon as you wake up in the morning, it is so demotivating for these ladies to wake up and move around. But what happens is, because as you drink some water, get hydrated, start moving your joints little throughout the day, this gets better. So that is about the ligaments and the joints. And other than that, there are a lot of aches and pains through menopause. Just like in pregnancy, there will be a lot of aches and pains they'll be having, suffering from. The most common pain is of the breast pain. There will be breast tenderness and breast pain. So this is very commonly seen. Other than this, there is muscle pain, the joint pain, and the other pain which we are not very aware about, but is commonly seen in these women. Even they don't know that this is because as a part of the menopause, that is the headache. This headache is again because of there is a lot of dehydration also precipitating this problem. And so these are the common issues that you are seeing in this period.
Okay, doctor, so does menopause affect the skin? Are there any skin problems related to menopause?
The skin, skin is basically composed of the elasticity of the skin is due to the collagen under it. Okay, so that is again because of the estrogen deficiency, the skin is most affected. The collagen deficiency sets in, and the elasticity of the skin is gone. We start developing wrinkles. The skin becomes very thin and very sensitive. So the skin, when it's sensitive, any amount of sun exposure, you immediately break out into rashes. The tanning is more. See, no matter whatever the complexion is, the skin looks beautiful when it is looking healthy, and the glow is there in that. There is glow, and it is maintaining its elasticity. Once it becomes shrunken and wrinkled, that is the reason is the lack of the estrogen. So what we can do is for maintaining a little bit more of elasticity of the skin and to avoid all these problems associated with skin thinning, one thing we can do is just maintain very good hydration. You will see throughout the talk, the talk of hydration is coming up. So you understand what is the relevance of water here to to combat any problems that is associated with menopause, especially these minor problems that you face throughout. So one thing is maintaining good hydration. That will help in maintaining the elasticity of the skin, the elasticity of the joints, the muscles, the ligaments. And other than that, it is I would advise that we should, at this stage, we should avoid these very harmful chemical products that we use on our skin on a day-to-day basis, because they will be having a lot of harsh chemicals. The skin is already becoming wrinkled, and this will add to that. So better avoid that kind of skin products, and we can go into more natural creams and products. That would be good.
Doctor, so you mentioned about breast changes that can happen during menopause. So what are such breast changes during menopause?
Breast is another extremely sensitive tissue and responding to estrogen. It is basically composed of the actions of estrogen, all the elements of the breast tissue. So obviously, when there's the estrogen deficiency, it makes there is a lot of changes in the structure, the shape, and the size of the breasts. Okay. So usually what happens is the skin of the breast become wrinkled, the breast may shrink in size, they may become more saggy. But on the contrary, for some ladies, there can be an enlargement of the breast too. So both can be worrisome at this age, because always when there is some change in the breast architecture, we always think of the breast cancer. So that is where the role of the breast self-examination comes into play. Breast cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, these are some of the cancers you have to think at the age of menopause. Okay, so one important thing you can adopt in your daily life is your breast self-examination. This can be done on either on a daily basis or on every week. So when you start doing it, initially it may take more time, but later with time you will get used to doing it. Within maximum it will take 2 minutes to do it, right? You can do it anytime when you're in your bath, when you're in your shower, or when you're just taking a rest. You can examine your breast. So the good thing about that is you may not necessarily understand if there is some abnormality, but what you can understand is the normal breast contour, your normal breast contour, you will be able to understand and identify with. And if there is any change in that, you will be able to detect it early. You can't wait for somebody else to detect it because that will be more late, right?
Yes.
So that is the importance of the breast self-examination. There will be an early detection of any kind of new lump that is formed, or any nipple discharge, if the nipple is getting inverted, or there are some skin changes in the breast. Okay, and if you find this alarming, you can immediately visit the doctor, and the doctor will guide you through some tests to confirm if there is anything abnormal. There is ultrasound, mammogram. This all is what is advised at this time. So that is one thing. And another problem most women face is again with the skin problem of the breast. The breast skin becomes very thin and the elasticity is gone. There will be too much itching, and there will be she'll be breaking out into rashes. That is one problem, another common encountered.
So, doctor, when you spoke about the signals that the body gives during menopause, you mentioned about hot flushes. So, doctor, can you elaborate what are hot flushes and what are the factors that can trigger them?
So, like I told you, hot flushes are the very distressing symptom because it is very confusing for the patient what is going on. Usually, it's more distressing when you alone feel hot and it's raining around and the AC, everyone is feeling cold, they want to switch off the AC, and still you say no, I'm feeling hot. Okay. So you definitely feel that difference. That something is going wrong with you, something is abnormal about you. Okay. And so hot flush, what happens in a hot flush is that the usual mechanism of our body is against extreme heat. There is a protective mechanism within our body to avoid being damaged by extreme heat. So when the skin feels too much hot, the body's mechanism gets triggered up, and the blood vessels under the skin, they will open up, releasing the heat within them, and it dissipates the heat. Again, at the same time, there will be sweating happening. Okay, this all is controlled by the nervous system within our body. Okay. So there will be sweating will occur, and sweating, when that happens, the sweat gets evaporated, and that results in cooling. Okay. Right, and then we feel cool even after when we are feeling too much hot. Okay. So that happens in a very controlled mode, in a controlled fashion. But in the menopausal women, what will happen is the body is in complete chaos at this time. It's already meddling with the hormone changes and the imbalance between the hormones. So it is a little late in recognizing the signal of the body that yes, I am feeling hot. Okay. So what happens is that it recognizes it a little late, and there is instead of the slow release of the blood flow, there will be a sudden rush of blood onto the skin, under the skin, and there will be a sudden dissipation of heat. So that is what results in there is a flush, there is a sudden heat wave going through our body, starting from the head, through our body, on our neck, on our shoulders, and then over to the toes. Up to the toes it will go, and that heat wave will go, and there will be immediately we'll be sweating, and it will be very, very sudden and shocking for the patient, and the patient feels embarrassed, confused, frustrated. All this happens. Okay. And then it becomes like a vicious cycle. What will happen is she will regularly feel the hot flushes, the sweating, the night sweats will be more, the hot flushes will be more at night, especially when everything around is cool. And because she sweats a lot, she will go in for dehydration. And when she goes in for dehydration, the hot flushes increase. Yes. Okay, so then it becomes just a vicious cycle. Again, as I said, the role of hydration comes into play here, and that is why it's very, very important to drink a lot of water. Okay. Then what will happen is that, we wanted to speak about the triggers, right? Yes. So there are a couple of triggers for these hot flushes to happen. Okay. So one of the most important trigger is, as I told you, the dehydration. Okay. So whenever you feel that you are, you should not wait for yourself to become thirsty. Before that itself, you have to quench your thirst with a lot of water. Okay. You have to keep drinking throughout the day. Okay. It can be water, it can be some fruit juices, anything. Okay. So that keeps you hydrated throughout. Then another trigger would be, I would say, a common trigger is use of caffeine. Okay, we all are coffee lovers, tea lovers. So at this stage, when you realize that you are developing these hot flushes, it is good if you can restrict the tea and coffee intake for some time till these problems settle down. Okay. Another thing would be spicy foods. Okay, I am a lover of spicy foods, so I know many of us love spicy foods. So this is again another time we should avoid the spicy foods. Okay, and go for a more bland diet like curd, milk. These all would do more good. Other than that, yes, we have smokers among us. Okay, smoking kills. okay, no matter whether man or woman. So there is no excuse for smoking. Smoking you should abandon completely. It not only affects in menopause, it will affect anybody at any age, and it affects the lungs and everything. You know more about it, right?
Yes.
So yes, smoking should be avoided. Then yes, then the other one that is always overlooked is our stress, because women always think that they have to be the mother of all. They have to take all the responsibility on their shoulders. So yes, let's keep that away, and let's think that if we are there, if we are there for ourselves, we'll be there for others, right? So we need to take care of ourselves. We will definitely feel very stressed out at this time, because especially when you are facing these hot flushes and all, and the irritability, everything is there. So this is your body signal telling you to take a break. So that is the most important thing. You have to relieve yourself of unnecessary tensions and try to relax your mind. There are a lot of stress busters. Even in my last video, I had talked about this thing. Going ahead with your hobbies, spending some time for yourself. So that all again comes into play over here.
Doctor, definitely we dealt with the problems associated with menopause. We shall go for a very short break now. After the break, we shall deal with more aspects regarding how to manage the stress and the problems that we face during menopause. So right now, we shall be back after a very short break. Welcome back. You're watching BMC Global Live Al Hilal Health World. Our topic for today's discussion is menopause. We dealt with various aspects regarding the problems women may face while entering into menopause. Let us now discuss how to manage these problems. Doctor, so during menopause, I think one important problem that may irritate women would be the tiredness or fatigue associated with it. So what could be some tips to beat menopausal fatigue?
Menopausal fatigue is like, it affects fatigue that is there in menopause is almost the same that is there in menarche, and the reason is the same. Because of the inside battle happening between the hormone transition, and the body is trying to cope up with that. And in that process, the body becomes really tired. And what we were doing a couple of months earlier in full energy, full enthusiasm, we are not able to perform the same course with that same energy level once it sets in. So that like makes us very, very upset, and we feel that we are falling sick. So once we realize that this is because of the menopausal changes, we have to understand our body's requirements and listen to it. And the most important thing is taking a break. When you feel that your body, like before, you are not able to work at that stretched period of time, or overtime work and all becomes a really Herculean task. So that time you should decide that yes, I need my break, and you have to take a short break. That way you give some rest to your body, and then you are back with new energy. So that is one thing you can do. Then the other thing what we can discuss here is about the kind of foods you can take. Always it's best to avoid. See, whenever we feel tired, what we do, if we have some juice in hand, we just take that, and it will be a highly sugar coated drink, right? So we should avoid very, very sweet foods and very high carb diets in this period, because what happens is there will be when you have a very, very sweet diet or a high carb diet, there will be a very big peaking of the sugar levels, okay? And it will be a very quick peak, okay? So at that moment, when there is a peak in the sugar levels in our body, we will feel an immediate rush of energy within us. But that will not be, it will not sustain. It won't be sustainable. Very soon the sugar levels will drop, and you will feel more fatigued. So instead of having that kind of foods that will give you an immediate boost, it is better to have something that will keep your sugar levels maintained throughout for a longer time. So for that, the foods that are better are high protein foods and low fat diets. When you take these kind of foods, you can maintain the sugar levels in a normal range for a longer time. Another thing, when you feel fatigued during this perimenopausal period, is that don't attribute everything to the menopause. There may be some associated conditions you are suffering from. Okay. So it is important that when it is troubling you too much, you try these remedies out and it's not working, you can visit a doctor.
Yes.
Okay, and the doctor will be able to evaluate for some other conditions which can mimic the same problem.
Okay.
For example, the commonest thing we all know about is a thyroid problem. Okay, and this thyroid problem, if you have a low thyroid function, it can mimic menopausal state. For example, even in a thyroid problem, you will have almost the same symptoms. You will have night sweats, you can have thinning of hair, weight loss or weight gain, and the mood changes will be there in this also, and the fatigue. This all is associated with a low thyroid function also. So go back to your doctor and get yourself tested. Another thing is, as I told you, in the perimenopausal period, you may be having heavy periods. Because of the heavy blood flow, you may be suffering from anemia. When you have anemia, again, you will develop a fatigue. So it's important to get your hemoglobin checked. Then another tips we can recommend for this condition, for the postmenopausal fatigue, is taking a lot of water. Can't tell, I have to tell, I'm sorry, I'm having to repeat it because it's that important. And I would want all our viewers who are facing these situations to first start with this basic step of drinking more and more water. So that is hydration. Hydration is extremely important, and it helps to relieve us of the aches and pains, and also keeps us more energized. And like, it will be good if you can take the juices, fruit juices, instead of just plain water. That will give you more energy. After that, another thing would be like it's associated with the diet itself. Like, along with the diet, maybe the diet may not be able to supplement for all the vitamin deficiencies in our body. So at this point, it is always good to start with some vitamin supplements also. Calcium is very important. As I told you, the bone health has started diminishing at this age. So we have to start calcium supplements, and along with that you can also take vitamin supplements. Vitamins which the B complex vitamins, zinc, magnesium, these all should be incorporated in that. So any multivitamin would do.
Doctor, you mentioned that diet is very important in managing the tiredness related to menopause. So my next question is, can you suggest some foods that would be helpful to consume during this stage?
Okay, needless to say, as we always emphasize on the healthy foods, okay, I will just put in one line about that, only the about the fruits, vegetables, and plenty of water. These are the basic things which we always try to ignore, but that should be there as a part of our daily diet. And other than that, another point I want to emphasize is about the fat intake. Okay. When we hear fat itself, we have been born and brought up telling that fat is bad, fat is bad, fat is the enemy of our body. But let me tell you, there are good fats and bad fats. So among the bad fats are the red meat and the high fat products and the processed fats, okay, like mayonnaise and all that stuff. That can be very unhealthy, and that can add to your weight gain, add to the cholesterol in your body, affect your heart health, okay, and make you more prone to heart attacks. It is said that like till menopause, the estrogen helps you protects our heart against heart attacks, and that's why before, in the reproductive age group, only when compared to men, only 1/3 of women develop a heart attack. Okay, but unfortunately after menopause, the ratio, it's equalized, and men and women become equally prone to getting an heart attack. So that is why it is very important to avoid the bad fats, at least after 40 years of age. Now coming to the good fats. These good fats, what does it do? The good fats, help in the improving the brain function. Like all other body organs, even the brain is affected in the menopausal period. We develop some amount of forgetfulness, memory loss. There is a lack of concentration. We are unable to concentrate as before. So to just boost the brain function, good fats are very, very essential, and we have to take it in moderate quantities. Okay. Then other than that, it is also very helpful in relieving of the joint pains and helping to lubricate the joints. So it is just like putting oil into your car for the smooth driving. You need enough of good fats for the smooth functioning of your body and the mobility of your joints. Then another thing is, it improves the skin elasticity, makes it devoid of wrinkles, and also improves the suppleness of the skin. So there won't be the earlier problems I told about, the rashes, the discoloration. These all things won't happen when you're having good fats in your diet. So now coming to what are the good fats, what could be classified as the good fats. One thing I would come to is eggs. Okay. Again, eggs is very, very good. Once upon a time, like, eggs were also, they were not popular enough.
Yes.
thinking that that is bad cholesterol, but it is good. Only thing is we should not have it in excess. We can have 3 to 4 eggs a week.
Okay.
Okay, it's very very high in fat and also high in protein,
Okay.
and both are essential to beat the menopause. So one is egg, and the second one we can also consider some low fat dairy products, like you get low fat yogurt, low fat milk. All this is available in the supermarket nowadays, right? So that we can buy.
Yes.
Then other than this, there are fish. Okay, so fish, all varieties of fish are not equally good. We need the omega 3 rich fatty acid, the fishes which are rich in this component.
Okay.
Okay, and the small fishes are believed to be rich in this. Okay, not the shrimps and the royal fishes. Okay, the mackerel and sardines, these are the fishes which are really good in this, and so non-vegetarians can have it in plenty as curries. Okay, try to avoid oiling it and frying it. Fry foods are best avoided in this situation. Now for the vegetarians, they shouldn't be upset, because if you are not you can't take fish, the same component that we want to take through the fish, the omega 3 fatty acids, you have capsules now.
Okay.
And you can take 1 capsule a day and the same benefit is served. Then yes, then other good fats are present in nuts.
Okay.
Nuts are very very good. The best one I would suggest is almonds, raisins, apricots. These all can be consumed in small quantities. Again, anything good also should not become poisonous for you when you consume in large quantities. So try to consume only in very moderate quantities. A handful is enough daily.
Okay.
A bowl of curd, a handful of nuts. And coming to last but not the least, we have to incorporate something which is not very common in our diets, and it is specially recommended. Even if the others don't take, I would specially recommend for the menopausal ladies, that is the seeds. Okay, seeds, have you heard of that, seeds?
No,
Okay.
I'm hearing it now.
Okay, so yeah, that's what we also like. Nobody popularizes it. It's not marketed enough. It should be promoted more, I would say. So it, not only for the menopausal ladies, it is also good for women in the reproductive age group.
Okay.
It is found to be really beneficial for women with polycystic ovaries, which is a very very common issue now, even among the younger girls. So what seeds are available? I will tell you. We have chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. Okay, there are a variety of seeds, and fortunately everything is available in the supermarket now. It is available in raw form as seeds itself and as powdered form. So who wants to get the maximum benefit out of this can take the raw seed. Okay, the raw seed packet that is available. Go home, just grind a little bit of it in the mixer and then consume it on a daily basis. You can take 1 teaspoon in the morning, 1 teaspoon at night. So how do you consume it? You can mix it in a glass of warm water or milk, or you can just add it to your dishes, whatever you're preparing. You can put it as a topping on salads. Okay, these are the variety of ways in which you can consume it. Okay. And if you, obviously we all are lazy to do all these things, and we will prefer to have it in the powdered form. Okay, that's also fine, but at least it's best to have it in some amount in your diet daily. Okay.
Definitely, doctor, those tips would have been very useful for many viewers watching right now. Doctor, so we dealt about the diet aspect. So similar to that, what would be best exercise to undertake during this period?
Okay, in any age group, we understand the relevance of being physically active. So the same stays for this age group also. With the exercise, what weight gain we are developing over time, we can control that weight gain. Then other than that, it helps to lift up our mood with the release of the chemicals in our brain, which we call endorphins. And so as menopause, the basic problem which women are concerned about is the mood changes and the mood swings and irritability. It will have a good impact, a positive impact on our mood. So that way also it helps. Then it gives better mobility to our joints, thereby reducing the joint pains. And with a good amount of exercise, when we are physically active, we get tired and we can sleep better. So those are the benefits of exercise. And of course, we can improve the bone health. There will be lesser chances of developing the osteoporosis. We can which can cause these fractures later in life. these problems can be avoided with exercise.
Okay.
But what is the problem? As usual, like there is a lack of motivation. Even in the youngsters, there is a lack of motivation. Anybody. Like even anybody, we feel like we want to exercise, we want to get fit and better, we want to get healthier, but we wake up in the morning itself thinking that, oh, today I have no time, I'm too busy today. So that's how we start our day. So that one attitude has to change. But in spite of even if you're truly motivated, during the menopausal period there are a lot of challenges even for doing regular exercise.
Okay.
For like as I told you, the menopausal fatigue is a major problem. You get fatigued easily, so you can't, even if you are deeply motivated to start exercising and get better, your body may not really cooperate at this time. That is one problem.
Okay.
Then the other thing is, as I told you, the joint pains and everything can get exaggerated very fast.
Okay.
So what we can do is, there are some tips for that also. Try not to overdo the exercise. And like how we all have, maybe at some point at least we must have experienced that, yes, I am going to get fit, and one day we just wake up and go and do 1 hour of treadmill or something like that, and the next day we are just lying down on bed, and we get so much of body pain with so much of vigorous exercise at one time itself that we totally skip it,
Yes.
and for another 1 month we won't be doing exercise till again we remember that, yes, we want to get back to normal. So that the same mistake we should not do over here.
Okay.
We should be very, very focused and do it very minutely and minimally.
Okay.
Start with little and then slowly you can build up. There's a lot of time. So yeah, and always it is best that every day you are not exercising. Maybe you can continue to stay physically active every day. One day of proper exercise, the other day either you can give a proper rest to your body, or you can go for just a brisk walk. That also will be enough to keep you physically active. But always see to it that you don't overdo it.
Okay.
Then the next thing is, when in menopause, because we want to maintain the bone health and the heart health, these are the two important things. We should not be just sticking to one kind of exercise.
Okay.
Like there are people who regularly go on a walk. There are people who do that very regularly. But that may not be sufficient, to keep you healthy in the menopause. You need to do a set of cardio exercises.
Okay.
And also cardio exercises, I would say, which swimming, jogging, dancing. These all are cardio exercises. Okay. And climbing up the stairs. These all are really good.
Okay.
That keeps your heart strong and and your bones, your joints also stay active like that. Then there are muscle strengthening exercises. These are also very important. So you may need something like a dumbbells. You can try that also out. So these muscle strengthening exercises, once your muscles are strong, the muscle pain and all will really vanish.
Okay.
And it will also give strength to your vertebral column and to your bones, because they are an additional structure that gives support to our skeletal system. Other than that, yes, the stretching exercises are also very, very important for a menopausal lady. When you stretch, you get a lot of flexibility. Your tendons, ligaments, and all can continue to maintain that flexibility even years after menopause.
Okay.
And so it will be easier for you to turn around, to bend and take something. So basically your day-to-day routine won't be affected or hampered in any way if you continue exercising.
Okay. Doctor, you mentioned many aspects and many points were new to viewers out there and even to me. So can you sum up this whole episode as a takeaway message which the viewers should remember?
All I would like to say is, just like we accept every stage of life with grace, we need to realize that this is an important part of our life. Yes. And there is nothing shameful about being menopausal.
True.
We have to accept it with grace and dignity. But to lead a life that can be free of all the problems that I spoke are associated with menopause, we definitely will need to take these corrective steps mentioned earlier, like the good food habits, the changes in the lifestyle. If you have any dangerous habits, it's best you start, completely cutting it off from your daily habits like alcohol and smoking. And of course, exercising. More important is just realizing that this is a part of me and I have to face it. and you have to start doing the corrective measures from the age of 40 itself. That will be the most effective for you, because once you develop these symptoms and then you start correcting it, it takes a longer time and you go through a lot of pain and distress. So start from the age of 40 and do whatever is necessary to beat the problems of menopause.
Okay, true, doctor. Thank you very much, doctor, for once again joining with us and explaining many of our queries, giving answers to all of our queries. Thank you so much, doctor.
Totally my pleasure.
Thank you, doctor. Definitely, it would have been a very useful and informative session for most viewers out there. And just like doctor said, and just like our topic says, menopause is definitely about aging gracefully. Until we meet again next week, same day, same time, this is Marina Francis signing off. Stay happy, stay healthy. Good night.